Hey, welcome back. Today's Q&A is a question from Nick. Nick wants to know if he can be competitive with an RCBS Chargemaster and knows that he's having difficulty getting single-digit extreme spreads with his loads. Nick wants to know if he's overthinking this. Let's get into that. Before I comment on the RCBS Chargemaster as a unit, let me just be clear. I have never had one. I have never used one, and I'm not fully familiar with the scale's capabilities. That said, the resolution appears to be 1/10 of a grain, which means that, used correctly, you could probably get in within plus or minus 5/100ths of a grain for the majority of charges. You're going to have a few that are going to go a little bigger than that, and that's one of the risks of using a dispenser with a low resolution scale. Even with that in mind, our nodes are typically pretty wide, and for mid-range use, I don't see a problem with this. For long range, where every little bit counts when you're trying to win, all right, I'll give you that one. It might make a difference. If you're just out trying to have fun, I'd use the RCBS if you already have it, rather than spending a bunch of money trying to change equipment. With all of that in mind, let's go to the second part of the question because I think that's the more important part of it. Is a single-digit extreme spread required for good accuracy at long range? And the answer is, I have no idea. I've never had a rifle that had single-digit ES. Never, not even one time in all the years that I've been shooting long range successfully. I've always had extreme spreads that range from about 12 up to about 25 for all of my match loads. I don't even bother with the extreme spread for the most part. I do look at the standard deviation to see how consistent the load appears to be. In reality, it doesn't make as much difference as we think it does. For example, with a .284 Winchester with 180 grain hybrid bullets, if I want to have no more than 4 inches of vertical dispersion at 1,000 yards, that's a 16 foot per second extreme spread. It's a lot bigger than you would think it is. Now, if you're trying for 1-inch groups or trying to set national records, trying to set world records in bench rest, absolutely get the lowest ES you can get as long as it groups. Because the grouping is far more important than what your chronograph says. Is Nick overthinking the ES? The answer is a wholehearted yes. If you're shooting F-class, if you're shooting long range with a sling, traditional long range prone, you're overthinking it. If you're shooting PRS, you're overthinking it. If you're shooting anything other than bench rest, you're probably overthinking it. In my opinion. Once again, this is all just my opinion and what I've experienced. Just in case anybody thought I needed to be in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Will a Chargemaster work? Yes, I'm sure it will. Anything will work. I started F-class with an RCBS scale and just trickled by hand. It worked fine. And I was able to get some pretty amazing results. Now, when I switched to the FX120i with the auto trickler, things got easier and I did get more precision in my powder charges. But is it necessary? The answer is, I really don't think so. Because when you think about it, the change in velocity for 1/10 of a grain of powder with my .284 is less than 7 feet per second if I'm in the node. If we break that down into 5 separate increments, which is how much we're going to break down that 10th to get to 200ths, I'm talking about 1.5 feet per second for each increment. Well, that's the most you're going to see, and that's going to get lost in the noise of all the other stuff that creates extreme spreads and velocity variations. In the end, I wouldn't worry about the scale that much. I'd worry about other things more before you get to the scale. A good tune can compensate for an awful lot of things in your load. That's all I have for this one. Until next time, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll see ya. But in reality, it doesn't make as much difference as we think it does. As we think it does.